Hi family, it's Daisy Orlandi. I'm back with another one, helping you to know God for yourself. But today we're gonna be talking about the power of God, right? Especially over my life. I feel like it's something that I've been shying away from, but for some reason, every time that I mention it to someone, let's say when they're down or they just want to be encouraged, and I mention these testimonies, they seem to be so moved, and they're like, wow. So I just want to share it with someone, encourage someone that God is with you. God hasn't forgotten you. The God that the one that you heard of, that is capable of opening seas, and making a way for people to pass through the river Jordan, and the same one that was traveling with the Israelites for 40 years and 40 nights, and having their clothes still intact, which is like they never lacked anything in the wilderness. So I just want to tell you about the God who's able to do anything today, brothers and sisters. So I have a few testimonies, but I'm just gonna try to sum it up, right? So just for some context, so I'm an only child, right? So it was just me and my mom, and then we used to live with her family, right? So yes, you might think, okay, but then if you and okay, but so my mom passed away, but you might think, okay, but then surely her family, could have taken over, but to someone from the outside, you think we were close, but we were not. Like, she was fully aware, and she fully knew that if something was to happen to her, then I wouldn't just need to rely on God. Like, it was very straightforward. I think for ever since I was a child, we knew that, So hence the Lord had to come in and rescue me, right? So my mom passed away when I was in matric, so this was 2015, right? So I did not listen, right? So she mentioned, ma'am, when I pass away, if something was to happen to me, please know that this man or these people are not going to take care of you, right? And then God forbid she passed away in February, right, in 2015. When she passed away, guys, I had to continue. There was no time to cry, if I'm being honest with you. There was no time to cry. I knew that I needed to get good marks so that I could go to varsity. That's the only thing that was on my mind, right? So you can imagine that I as the year is progressing, it's time to apply. We're applying, we're doing all these things, and then I and that's the thing. So I remember talking to one of my mom's family members who actually asked me, so are you gonna apply for bursaries? And then I'm like, yeah, I was thinking about it, and then like this individual mentioned, no, like, you shouldn't, I'm gonna pay, right? Stupid me, I listened, right? So then after I'd listened to him, you can imagine, now it's 2016, guys. I've registered, I have, I've packed my bags, guys. I'm in the city where I'm supposed to study, and then this person is calling me and they're telling me that, yo, ma'am, I'm not going to pay. You'll be like, what are you studying? And then I was like, no, I'm studying engineering. And I was like, hey, there's no way you're gonna study engineering, because you're gonna do well in life, and then it's you're just gonna flex on my kids. Okay, so then so now you can imagine, so this is where the testimony part is coming. So now you can imagine that I do not have funding, guys. I did not apply for anything because I knew I didn't listen to Shapo. I didn't listen, right, to my mom. And then now what she's saying is coming to pass, brothers and sisters. So then you can imagine my panic at that time. And then obviously the only place you can run to is the Lord at this point. So then I'm sure you all know NSFAS, or South Africans know NSFAS. So it's a bursary we have here in South Africa to that helps certain groups of people. So fine, it was closed. The only thing that they were doing is appeals. That was the only thing that they were attending to at the financial aid office. So then I went, and I went and I spoke to the man. I spoke to the man at the financial aid office. I told him my story. Yo, like, this is what happened, and I really need help. Please make a way for me. Like, please make a plan, right? And then by the grace of God, that man was so moved. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a plan. I'm gonna try on my side to push your case here, the officers, and then you will get the funding, hopefully. Let's fingers crossed, right? So then, okay, fine. the next day came, and then like he had my number, and then he was like, I'll come to the office actually and sign your contract. I signed my contract. So I signed my contract, and then I was able to get funding for my diploma, right? Then that's the first testimony, and then you might say, oh, okay, that's fine, right? So then now I had to do P1 and P2 because you cannot graduate with just an S4. If you just finish your theoretical models, you cannot graduate if you didn't do the practical component. So now you can imagine that when I did my P1, I was the one that had to pay for it, right? So when it came to P2, you can imagine now that, so I had applied, and then luckily I got, a little, like an internship at a mine, right? But it's a quarry, like it's open cast mine. So then, fine, I needed money obviously for the first month, I do not have, So then I thought to myself, okay, you know what, guys, it's bad. It's really bad. So let me just call my mother's family. I know you might be thinking, ma'am, what do you mean? So I called because I was like, okay, you know what? And mind you, my faith was not that as strong as it is now, obviously, right, guys? So please be kind. So you can imagine that I tried to call, right? And then I was like, yo, this is what's happening. And that's the thing, like, one thing they know about me, they know that I am sold out for Christ, like in a spiritual, because they are like more, they are sangomas and ancestral worship and so on. But they once asked me which side you follow, and I said, Jesus is Lord. Like, that's what I'm doing, right? So you can imagine how when I so when I called them, I called my mom's family, and I was like, can you guys just please help me with just some money so I can go to school. I'm gonna go to do my practicals, and then I will reimburse you, right? Tell me why they said, why don't you ask God? Okay, so then at this point he was like, okay, but then isn't there someone else you can ask? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll see what I can do, right? So then I called up a friend. I was like, yo, this is what's happening. Mind you, it's the 18th. I was starting to work on the 18th. It's like the weekend of the 18th, before the 18th, that I was trying to call around and so on. So this friend of mine borrowed me some money, but then it wasn't enough. I think it was like 150 or something, right? So then, and I needed enough money for 7 days, right? So up until the 25th. So then when the Lord heard that statement, he pulled up, right? So I'm here, I'm like, yo, Lord, this is what's happening, like, please, do something. Obviously I should have prayed first, but guys, hence I said, So then, fine, I went to work, right, on the 18th with that 150 of mine. Mind you, that was enough for one trip, right? Okay, so then I went there, and then I remember that we were doing our induction and stuff there, and then all of a sudden, one of the safety officers called me to the office and said, oh, HR is calling you. Like, they called my phone. They want to talk to you. Please answer the phone. And then when I answered the phone, the HR lady said, no, can you please go home? Can you please go home, and then you'll come back when you get paid? That cannot be a coincidence, brothers and sisters. So you can already see, that the Lord was working in the background for me. Because tell me how many people can say something like that has happened in their lives, and only to find, and mind you, since I had only worked 7 days, I was supposed to get, it was only supposed to be like a small amount of money. You can imagine an internship, like if you were to break down the working days in 7, it's not a lot, right? But tell me why month end these people paid me half of my salary. Tell me why they did that. God is still alive. Okay, fine. And then, so that was the second testimony, right? So now we're gonna go to, now I have to do my BTech, right? So I have to do my BTech, and I remember, so by then there was like some new drama, right? There was some new drama happening there at home and stuff. So it was just bad, right? So honestly speaking, I wasn't in the right state of mind. You might think, okay, but then, yes, I did try to apply for bursaries, but it just wasn't happening for me, right? So then, fine, I went to, so now I don't have many options, and I am not getting, you know, replies from the bursaries and so on, right? So please tell me why that the year that I had to do my BTech, you know, and obviously I told the Lord the situation. Hey, Lord, I bet it's bad, you know. Tell me why when I had to do my BTech, NSFAS was funding a second qualification. Brothers and sisters, they were funding a second qualification. They're like, no, guys, we're going to pay. Just register and then we will do it for you. You understand? Can I ask you another question? Tell me why immediately when I had finished my qualification, it closed, and then they said, no, guys, we're not doing it again. This was just like a once off. Guys, the goodness of God, like really, like, yo, okay, fine. So that's another story, right? So then fine, now I'm gonna tell you like something now that was just like a life-threatening thing, right? No? So you can imagine the kind of, so now this is fast forward, right? Fast forward, now we're in 2023, right? So, and then this part, it's for someone that is struggling honestly with like ancestral like spirits. If you're struggling with that, and you don't know what to do, maybe if you lost your faith and people are scaring you to believe that no, like this is the only way out. No, like the day that you purpose it in your heart that to serve the Lord, just know that you have heaven's backing, right? So then there came a time where you know, like I was having like, you know, I was just having some dreams, right? About like an ancestral side. It's like I just see some things that I felt like I was not supposed to see, right? So then now, like, and where I was working, there was a lot of people that were doing this thing of, you know, the initiation with Twasa, and they kept on coming to me like flies attracted to something, you know, and then to food left out or something, and then they kept on saying, you know, you have this calling. Me, no. The first step, power of the tongue, brothers and sisters, no. If the Lord said, I was just like, no, it can't be me, guys. If you say I'm in denial, it's okay, you know. So then, one thing that these spirits are popular for is breaking bones. I'm sure you've heard many times like how your health will be affected because of these spirits, right? So tell me why now I had like a hole, so a hernia right in my diaphragm. So I don't want to freak anyone out, obviously, but I do have the x-rays and the CT scans and so on. You know, if you want to see it, you can comment and then I'll show you, maybe, if there's like enough people. But anyways, so my intestines, right, or my large colon had like, obviously because there's a hole and there's nothing stopping the lower cavities or the lower contents from coming up to the lung. You see, you know, there's so in that x-ray you can just see a colon like like going around like this, right? So I'm Venda, by the way, né? So you can just see that colon there, right? And then there was 2 fractured ribs. So then the doctors didn't know what happened. I also didn't know what happened. I just know that I woke up one day, went to work, I coughed, and like then I just had some pain, and then the pain never left for months. I was going up and down, and they were saying, oh no, maybe it's gas, and like it was just a mess, right? So then, and I told myself, you know, Lord, if and that's the thing, the Lord will never fail. Like there's no way I was gonna die. Obviously the Lord was not gonna allow me to die because I'm trusting him, you know. So sometimes honestly you also just need like some blind faith, and you need to be stubborn, you know. You need to be stubborn in the things of God and say, no, Lord, you said. You need to be like Jacob and hold on to that promise, you know, that you said he'll be the one to carry you and to sustain you. So I held on to that word. I was like, yo, you know what, Lord, I know I'm not gonna go out this way. There's no way you carried me to this point just to leave me here. That's what I know for sure, 100%, you know. So then fine, I like, so, you know, you know, they did the surgery, and mind you, my lung function was 46%. This whole lung was not working. It was not working. Like it was just like a mess, you know. It was so bad that the surgeon, they actually thought maybe I was a gender-based violence victim, because they're like, no, maybe someone kicked you, were in an accident, no. And then they're like, did someone kick you? You know, so I was like, no. And then they're like, okay, but then how does this happen? And then they're like, okay, no, maybe you've been having it since you were young and it just ruptured now. Okay, then explain the bones now breaking, like the ribs fracturing, you know. And so then I remember after that surgery, the way that surgeon was so moved. He was a cardiothoracic surgeon, you know. He was like, and he's an Indian man, so he actually hugged me. The way he was so moved, after he took out the tube, because obviously, you know, there was like they had to drain some fluid out and so on, right? So I had like this huge scar, or I have this huge scar, and plus this little place where there was a pipe in my you know, lungs to drain the excess fluid. So then after you remove that pipe, I'm not laughing. Like this man, like he literally hugged me. Like he was like, I don't know how you lived. He literally said, I don't know how you lived. He was like, it could only be God. The way that man was so moved, you know, with this whole story, you know. So then, like, funny enough, you know, you'd think it was just like a moment's thing, right? But after that, I went and worked somewhere else. So as a because my contract ended where I was working in 2023. So 2024, now I had a grad program, right? So obviously a grad program, you can imagine how much you're getting, right? So then, and I don't have a medical aid. So then I had to go for checkups and so on with no medical aid. And then this man, you know, so he, like, and you can imagine how much it is to consult a specialist, you know. So then the way he was so moved, he was like, no, I don't want anything from you. Like, he was like, whatever, like, I was like, no, but I have to give you something. He was like, okay, whatever you have, you can give me. But really, like, the way he was so moved, like, he did it for free, like, basically, you know. But obviously, because I couldn't live like that, I left something, obviously, you know. So yeah, guys, I just wanted you to know that, you know, to know the power of God, and to know that, you know, God is still a God that does miracles. You know, obviously to me, because I'm so familiar with these stories, it's just like, oh, okay, like, it's not, you know, for me, it's not that okay, it's deep. Sorry, Lord, I'm not trying to take away credit, like, but I'm so familiar with it that it's like, oh, okay, you know. And I can't describe how many times that, you know, the Lord has saved me, has led me, he has guided me. You know, in my foolishness, you know, he's always been there. Like, he's been a father to me. Like, I can honestly say that the Lord raised me, like, ever since, like, I was 18 years until now. You know, the Lord has sustained me. You know, like, I don't know what it is to be hungry, like, and to go to bed, like, in the streets, or like, because now obviously we don't talk with my mother's family. We are not close at all, you know. We are not. Like, after my mom passed, the relationship ended, and that's how it was. Because, you know, and that's the thing, I can't lie about them and say, you know, I didn't expect this, because my mom prepared me. And like, ever since I grew up, if I'm being honest, they used to tell me things like, you know, like, well, just know that when I die, you're not gonna get anything of mine. Like, you know, the only reason why you're related to me is because of my child. And, you know, I'd get those things. Like, those are the statements that I would get. So I did not expect them. You know, I hoped, obviously, maybe, you know, that the death would soften them and so on, but it did not, you know. And I was forced, you know, to rely solely on the Lord for provision, for protection, and for all of those things. So I just wanted to encourage someone today and to say, you know, God is really good. Like, and his mercies endure forever. Like, he is one of the best people. It's not people, but the best you'll ever find that day. So in closing, you know, and again, this story is not to bash anyone or to make anyone feel bad. I was just sharing my testimony and hoping that it encourage someone that, you know, you might be alone, you might find yourself with no parents, you might find yourself with no one in your corner, but one thing that the Lord said, you know, is that he will never leave you nor forsake you, you know. And also shout out to the people who, like, supported me. I mean, people from my high school, you know, people that I've worked with, you know, my friends, the church. Like, you know, the Lord will always make sure that you're well taken care of. I mean, like, people really came up. Like, I've lived in people's houses. Like, I've lived in a pastor's house, in a lecturer's house. Like, I have really, you know, the Lord has really, you know, opened up doors for me, and he took care of me. And, you know, I could have been on the wrong side of the world, of life now, you know, but the Lord said no. You know, he just said no. Like, that is not your portion, you know. And I believed him, and here we are many years later. So in closing, I'd like to read Isaiah 46 verse 4 to 5 NIV. It reads, even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I'll sustain you and I will rescue you. With who will you compare me or count me equal? To whom will you liken me that we may be compared? And my answer is no one. So family, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope, you know, that helps someone. And I hope you like, you share, you subscribe, or you follow, depending on whatever platform. But I hope this really does touch someone. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Bye.